Hello everybody, welcome to my post-workout stretch. Now there will be quite a few stretches on here, but I'll make sure to highlight the key stretches that I believe everybody should be doing. Take a squat for example. There are many ways in which you could be restricting your squat depth that you might not even know about. Tight calves can be restricting your ankle mobility, sending your bum right back. If you struggle with stiff hips and glutes, you might find that the only way you're able to get depth is if you have a super wide stance. And if you lack movement in your upper back and or pecs, you can make the movement a little bit more dangerous than it needs to be. So, starting from the bottom, to fix these problems, in a squat, for our ankles to be nice and healthy, we need our knees to go right over our toes. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. You want to find the distance where your heel can remain on the floor and your knee is just touching the wall, using your toes to dig into the ground as you return to the back. It's also important to stretch off the calves in a straight leg position to hit more of the top of the muscle. Here I'm elevating the front of my foot and leaning into it until I'm met with resistance. Right, moving on to our first key stretch, the hamstrings. This can be done in your house. Just because I'm using the box doesn't mean you need to find a box. This can be done on a couch, a bed, a table, doesn't really matter. Pick a height that's comfortable for you. When doing this, make sure both legs are locked out straight and your weight is going through your back leg. For the first half of the exercise, you're going to lean down just like that with a straight back without rounding your back. And then for the second half, you're going to stretch forward for your toes. Now, this next stretch, the couch stretch, is probably the best one to do on this video. Here, I'm tucking my knee right in against the block and I'm pressing up, closing the distance between my bum and my heel without pushing my bum back. So I'm trying to keep a straight line from my shoulders down to my knee. Now, when you do this, it's important you keep your hips nice and square and they're not pushed out to the side, as I'll demonstrate here. And if you make sure to do exactly as I do here, you should feel a nasty stretch from your knee right up into your hip. Thumbs up. Now, if you do not have anything you can perform the couch stretch on in your house, you can still do the quad stretch down on the ground. Just make sure one leg is up in front and you're pulling the leg nice and tight, keeping your hips square. The third exercise I believe everybody should be doing off this video is the pigeon stretch. If you're wanting to loosen off those glutes, copy me. Now it doesn't matter what that back leg is doing, mine happens to be straight, but you can sink that knee down to the ground if you don't have that hip mobility. What I am doing here though is keeping my shin nice and square to my chest and leaning forward like a pigeon, puffing my chest out and trying not to round that back. Now as you start to ease into it, halfway through I want you to open up that angle by pushing the heel a little bit further forward and twist into your leg. And again, if you do not have anything to do the pigeon stretch on, you can just do the glute stretch on the floor. Now, in order to keep a nice and puffed chest when doing our squats, it's important to have a mobile upper back. So here I'm placing both hands firmly on the wall, keeping my legs nice and still, and then just dropping my shoulders and chest area down to the floor. Now there's many variations to this depending on how mobile you are, but basically the further apart your arms are going to be, the easier it is. One of my favourite ways to stretch my pec is by digging my elbow into the wall, keeping my forearm nice and vertical, and then just changing the height of my elbow to stretch off different parts of the muscle. Now you can also do this with a straight arm. Just make sure that your elbow crease is facing the ceiling so you're opening up that pec and not rounding the shoulders forwards. And again, changing the angle. Moving on to the lats. If you do have access to a bar, I definitely suggest dead hangs in a reverse or supinated grip. But if you want to go one step further, you can do it with one arm, tilting your body to the side and do what I call the special stretch. But if you do not have access to a bar, do not worry, you're going to do the exact same thing on the floor. Just clamp one hand down with the other and lean into that side, stretching off the lat. Now, personally, if my lats are particularly tight that day, I always like to foam roll just a little bit before I hit those stretches. Now, hopefully you found this video helpful and you can give these stretches a try after your next workout.